All right, it is 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 p.m. Coastal, I believe. Welcome to Gaming News and Updates, daily show covering the day's gaming news. Starting out with maybe a big update or announcement for some, nothing for others. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4, as they're calling it. Steam page reveal. Got a trailer up on YouTube, and quite a interesting kind of pre-sale going on. A loyalty discount for, as they put, eligible players. So as their store page says, to qualify, you must own and have played one of the following Call of Duty titles on the same Steam account as being used for the current pre-purchase of Modern Warfare 4. So those titles would be Modern Warfare, the 2019 release, Black Ops Cold War, Vanguard, Modern Warfare 2, the 2022 release, not the original Modern Warfare 2 or the remaster release of Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, but not that Modern Warfare 3, the new Modern Warfare 3, Black Ops 6 or Black Ops 7. Says offers subject to change, applies to pre-purchase only. Basically, if you bought and played Call of Duty title in the last, I think the oldest game here might be Vanguard, so roughly the last 6-7 years, you're going to get a 10% discount. This might be the first time I've seen this type of re-release deal. You certainly see bundle packages nowadays for games coming from the same developer, or a certain percentage off if you buy the game early pre-purchase, or even there's like an introductory offer period where you might get 10-15% off. This is interesting though. Some obviously you can only do when you have, what are we up to, like 40 different Call of Duty games now? It is kind of a hefty price, $70, that new $70 standard. The Vault, they make this so confusing. I don't even know what is the pre-purchase Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4 Vault Edition upgrade. Maybe if you pre-purchase Modern Warfare 4 and then we decide later you want to get the Vault upgrade as opposed to spending this outright, because that's 90. No, that'd be 100. Okay, 100 on sale, I guess. So you're losing out if you don't, I guess, pre-purchase the Vault Edition straight up. I don't know. We'll see what new stuff comes out. Don't think this will be on Game Pass. I think they've announced in the past that future Call of Duty games will no longer be on Game Pass, but we'll see how that holds up. I think a huge part of that is predicated upon how these early pre-purchase sales go. So we'll have to see. Our next story, Acer brings Intel Arc B390 graphics to Predator Atlas 8 gaming handheld. They're doing that through their new G3 Extreme CPU, or I would still call it an APU. It's a CPU that can handle graphics. It's trying to challenge AMD's kind of dominance in that market. I believe the Steam Deck uses an AMD chip. Lots of these handheld ones do, and Intel getting into the game, especially with prices going up, as we know, and we're going to talk about it again today. The Steam Deck just going up a $300 increase overnight. Now, their products weren't, the Steam OLED that went up in price wasn't available, so it's not like you missed out on $300 saving overnight, literally, because you couldn't have actually bought it for the cheaper price for quite a while now. But It's always, this is competition. This is good to see. This will be good for Intel to, potentially break into a new market that they've kind of neglected. Seeing Intel get back on their feet, get back in the game, put that American taxpayer dollar investment to good use. Moving on to our next story. Like we said, talk about the Steam Deck. Even with that $300 increase, it's sold out. Again, the OLED model sold out in US and Canada, so I would assume it's available in Mexico, but Mexico, the Bahamas, Greenland. For some reason, whenever people put sold out in North America, they tend to only talk about the US and Canada, so at least those two are sold out. Kind of not a shock. $1,000 for that machine, man. If you don't already have a powerful gaming computer, I still think it's a good deal. Especially if you're trying to break into sort of PC gaming as a whole, or perhaps you don't have the room, whatever. If the form factor of the Steam Deck, the handheld, makes sense for you, I still think for $1,000 you're able to access your Steam library. That alone kind of makes the cost worth it. So interesting to see that even as prices rise, people are still willing to pay for what they want, pay for kind of an objectively good product. The certainly the reviews for the Steam Deck, even the OLED model, are very positive. So price aside, the product is good. People like the product. People are going to pay for it. So this has been a story years in the making now. Fortnite has returned to iOS globally, and so far it's already reaching $3.4 million. That's not, topping the charts massive, but that's massive. If you don't remember, Fortnite was taken off of iOS. Epic then sued Apple because Apple was restricting in-app purchases to be made through the Apple Store, which allowed them to take a cut of it. Epic didn't like that. They sued. I don't know if it was a federal judge or the FTC. People got involved. The government sided with Epic, and I believe there was a couple other defendants or possibly, the suing side. It was slightly more than just Epic, and they won that. So Apple iOS, they had to open up that you could do in-app purchases without going through the Apple Store, so you didn't have to give them a cut. And as we can see, there's 3.4 million people that wanted to get back to playing Fortnite on their iPhones. However you feel about that, that's a huge number. That's a lot of people, either playing in a way they haven't been playing in, or potentially some new people. Certainly a massive market of phone users that are not into gaming, where they have a console or a PC or a Steam Deck, some kind of handheld. So this iOS version, and these mobile games could be the only way that they're playing, and it's certainly a interesting future to see. Mobile games, the last decade have gone away from the classic scammy kind of mobile games that we think of in the past, to now it's just Fortnite, it's just Call of Duty, Rust, I think PUBG, Age of Empires is as a mobile version that's kicking ass right now. So it's an interesting time. Lots of people out there, and again, where money's an issue, if you can only buy one, and you gotta buy a phone, even if the newer iPhone, is $1,000. If that's all you can buy, you can't afford a second $1,000 for Steam Deck OLED or one of the other Acer handhelds or the Xbox handheld, ROG handheld, those cheaper ones, or can't afford building a full stack computer or buying a console. The phone might be the best option. So good to see that people are able to at least play games where they want, for a reasonable price that they want. And our last story comes from GDC, or the Game Developers Conference. They released their trends report, which, as the little header here reads, this year's GDC brought together top thought leaders, experts, and innovators to discuss the future of game development, gain key insights on innovations and industry shifts from this year's event at the 2025 GDC, from the 2025 GDC Trends Report. So, the Game Developer Conference, it is what it says on the tin. It's a conference of game developers coming, it's basically a big social meet and greet. And this report kind of tries to take down what people were talking about. The head listed topics were generative AI, live service games, mobile/web gaming, VR, AR, and MR or mixed reality, accessibility, publishing and financing, and game careers. Now the bottom two, that should be par for the course for GDC. Game careers, publishing and financing. This is the event that you come to if you're a developer to meet up with other developers and try to either find a new avenue for your career or make those inroads with people and potentially find publishing or financing for whatever kind of game you're trying to pitch. There's been lots of games that have found their their funding or found their avenue onto given console market because they met a contact at GDC. So those ones make sense. Mobile or web gaming, VR. Those are two obvious sectors that we're seeing growing. Obviously, different rates for the two. Games going back to iOS, at least Epic Games, or a more burgeoning market there. Of course, when you bring in a game like Fortnite to iOS, it's going to attract more players, more people buy those phones, more people playing games on the phones, so more games can do well on iOS. Valve's eventual upcoming VR headset, their second version of it, the Steam Frame, I believe it's called, that may once again shake up the VR scene. Either with some new impressive tech or convincing more and more developers to get onto the VR bandwagon. But the top two are definitely the two things a lot of the actual gamers, the customers, are talking about: generative AI, or the rise of generative AI tools, bringing innovation and opportunity, but also ethical challenges for developers, and live service games. That being a thriving market with ongoing revenue and job security, but facing risks like oversaturation and burnout. Those aren't just definitions of those. Those are sort of the pros and cons that these developers are giving for those things. That it's nice to see that they do recognize that generative AI tools can be a good thing. Their ethical or moral challenges for themselves, that's on them. Regardless of how you feel about a hammer's still a tool. It's going to do a job. So if you find that unethical, there's still the Amish out there that don't use zippers. Why don't they use zippers? I don't know. They like buttons. Zippers aren't for them. So it doesn't take away the effectiveness of a zipper. It still zips up whether they like it or not. So I think that's the way this generative AI is going to have to be thought of by these guys. You can have your own moral quandary about it, but regardless, the tools are going to continue to advance. Whether you use them or not, that's on you. And then live services. Certainly, it's weird that it's the boogeyman of the industry, it seems like right now, besides AI. Most of the top games played every single day are live services. Whether people like it or not, that's certainly what developers are seeing, certainly what publishers are seeing. All we have to do is go to the old browse. We're gonna look at where we go. Steam charts. All we gotta do is look at the most played. And even when we take out games like, 5M, Bongo Cat, these are live service games. The top 10, Forza Horizon 6, I gotta assume it'll be more content. I don't know if we can really call that a live service game, but absolutely. Counter-Strike, Dota 2, PUBG, Rust, Marvel Rivals, Rainbow Six Siege, Apex Legends, Overwatch. These are the epitome of live service. They've been around for, some of these games have been around for over a decade plus. You don't get to stay around that long and be that relevant at the top of Steam, at the top of people's play charts, without continuing to push out content, which is why they are up there. Yep, absolutely. A game like Slay the Spire can find its way towards the top when it initially releases, but as we look at the player numbers, I'm going to reckon, let's see if we can get Steam DB brought up. Since release, obviously it's trending down. Again, though, it's a game that you can eventually beat it. You can eventually reach some sort of end state, and it's going to lose players. Every game does that, unless you keep putting content in. So it's good to see developers, at least taking these things. These are certainly, seven great topics for them to be looking at and exploring. These are definitely topics that the players are talking about and are concerned about. So it's good to see no nonsense on here. No social nonsense. No non-gaming related. Put it that way. Everything has a direct tie-in to what kind of game are we making, how we're making it, like financially, or the tools. If you were to replace, the gaming industry with say concrete, this would be very similar. All right, what kind of tools are we using to lay concrete, or what kind of materials are we using? How do we get more people into using or working on concrete? How do we fund our trucks? How do we fund the purchasing of tools? What kind of career can I get in concrete? So yeah, good to see that these are the top of people's priorities, because this is what actually matters. Let me know what you think, though. That's going to be the end of our live stream, as that is all of today's news. We will see you here tomorrow, Friday. Thank God it's Friday, almost. Again, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific Coast. Yeah, thanks for watching.